Thank you for everybody for being here tonight. It means the world to me. I grew up in Chicago, and my dream as probably a teenager was that if I had kids, that they would be able to go to college, and that I could pay a mortgage and not pay a rent. And that's kind of where I started. And where I grew up, that was like bold to think about that. I lived in a garage. My parents were married. The first 9 years of their marriage, I lived in a garage that my dad turned into a little house. And then I came around 4 years into their marriage, so I lived in a garage for the first 5 years of my life. And we hardly had anything, but we also thought we had everything. And I think that was really a focal point for me, is what my parents sacrificed for myself. And I have a brother that's 6 years younger than me. And they gave us everything they could. And they were the kind of people that if a neighbor had an issue, they would call my dad or my mom. And they would go down the street and they would fix whatever they needed to be fixed. So they really taught me a lot about hard work. They couldn't teach me about college. They couldn't teach me about higher education. They could only teach me about having integrity and being genuine and being truthful. And for that, I'll never forget it. My dad got sick at 49 years old and developed lung cancer. And my mom and dad were the love of each other's life. So, the love of each other's life. I'll get up. Hello? All I had to do was sit around the table. And so he got sick. And I was living in Philadelphia at the time. I began my career as a sports writer. At 5'8", I knew I wasn't going to be able to make a living playing professional sports. Okay? Unless my name was Jose Altuve, then perhaps I could have made a living doing it. But I played hockey, I played soccer, I played baseball. I played it through high school, played baseball a little bit in college. And growing up, though, it was like, how are we going to survive? How are we going to make ends meet? Every Wednesday, my dad was out of money. He was a laborer, factory worker, got paid by the hour. He didn't go to work, he didn't get paid. And we were on such a tight budget that we were out of money every Wednesday. And as time went on, I learned, and I had to go to college, I had to figure that out. But in this one period of time where I'm in Philadelphia, and I'm covering the Philadelphia Flyers in the NHL, my dad gets sick. And we decided to start a family, and so we have a son. And then I decide, instead of growing up, having my son live in an apartment, I'm going to fulfill part of my dream, and I'm going to buy a duplex. And back then, the interest rates were, guess what they were? 18%. Think about that today. The interest rates to purchase a home were 18%. I did that. Wife put work, became a mom. I became a dad. My dad was dying of cancer. My mom had never driven a car. My brother was in college. Wife puts work. We're making probably a combined $30,000 in the newspaper folds. And I have to come home. And Chicago Cubs, Dallas Green, who was the manager of the Phillies, he has 2 job openings, one in media relations and one in publications. And he's going to let me interview for one. He's got probably 50 to 75 people for both jobs that are going to interview. And they're going to pay $13,000 a year. And so I say, Dallas, I got to talk to you. He says, I'm going to let you interview, but I can't promise anything. And it's only $13,000. That's all it's going to be. There's a line out the door for these jobs. And so I said, I need 60 seconds. He goes, go ahead. Don't ask me for more money. I said, well, give me 60 seconds. And so I said, here's what I need. Would you give me $1,000 to help me move back and pay me $15,000 a year? And he says, I told you don't ask me for any more money. I said, but you said you'd give me 60 seconds. I've still got 30 seconds. I said, if you give me $15,000 and $1,000 to move back, I'll do both jobs. Interview me for both jobs, I'll do both jobs. You'll save money. I'll be out of a couple more $1,000 to try and make ends meet on this hellacious mortgage I have of $750 a month. Back then, that was a lot of dough. And he said, I kind of caught him by surprise and kind of caught him short, and he says, why don't you come in, we'll talk. And I came in and he offered, I interviewed for both jobs simultaneously. He hired me for both jobs at $15,000 plus $1,000 to move back. It was Brian's first year as a GM, my first year as the assistant GM. And we did as much as we could in the off season going into it, including trading Matt Williams, which was like, Brian didn't know how many Giant fans there were in San Francisco until he traded Matt Williams, and his voicemail kept filling up. We started to build a team. We got Jeff Kent and Jose Vizcaíno, who had been with me in Chicago and ended up with me in the Dodgers. And Julian Tavares and Joe Roa, one deal plus $1 million, which was key. Then we went down to Anaheim. We got JT Snow from Billy Bavasi, plus another $750,000 so we could go sign Darrell Hamilton. May he rest in peace.
While working in the city of brotherly love, Ned Colletti would intrigue for the Philadelphia Journal. He wrote about the Flyers and the National Hockey League. So what my question for you today is, what was it like working in Philadelphia? What connections did you make probably when you went back for the 08 and 09 Fall Classics while you were working for the Dodgers when the Phillies played them? So what were the connections like? What was it working like covering the Flyers? You were probably there for the professional sports record 35-game unbeaten streak of the Flyers. The 79-80 Flyers set a professional sports record in North America, 35 games unbeaten, 25 wins, 10 ties. Unfortunately, they lost the cup to the Islanders that year. But long story short, what was it like working in Philadelphia?
I love Philadelphia. It was it's a little bit of a gritty town, you know? And I'm a little bit of a gritty kind of guy, and I loved it there. The people were passionate about their teams. I came from Chicago when I went there, and remember that, you know, I saw I didn't even get to see him because, believe it or not, the 1963 NFL championship game between the Bears and the New York Giants was not on television, if you can believe that. So I had never seen a Chicago team win anything in my lifetime. And so I get to Philadelphia, and that year, the Phillies win the World Series, the Eagles go to the Super Bowl and get beat by Oakland, the Sixers go to the finals, and I think maybe got
lost to the Lakers.
Lost to the Lakers. And the Flyers get beat in the finals by the Islanders. And I'm thinking, you know, everybody's winning stuff. Everybody's going to the last round. I've never seen it before in my life, and now every major sport did it. And the NCAA basketball championship game was at the Spectrum that year. So it was a great time. It's where my son was born. My son was born in First Pennsylvania Hospital, oldest hospital in America, founded by Mr. Benjamin Franklin. So I've always got a little bit of a soft spot for me in Philly. Loved it. I made a lot of good friends there, still stay in touch with them. And 08 and 09 were probably two of the toughest times I ever spent in Philadelphia, watching all you fans celebrate as we got beaten in the LCS. But thank you.